And we're live. We are live on YouTube. And if you're on Facebook looking for us, you can probably press the button and get there as well. There is about a 30-second delay between the time that between the time we're talking, maybe it's about 20 seconds, and the time it actually broadcasts. But I can see it on my phone. But if somebody can just leave a comment, that will confirm for us it is that we are in good shape. And it would be nice to know who's here. This is, as I mentioned before, there are a lot of reasons that I would prefer if YouTube would work, if this would work, that would be great. We have good friends who don't want to have Facebook accounts and go in there in some incognito way. And I don't think you have to have an account to watch something on YouTube. Now, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, all the social medias are getting, criticized somewhat for the way things are going. YouTube has its own problems, but I think for us, this is going to be better. So welcome to Story Night tonight. I am joined by Jose and Priya from the Kitsap Regional Library, and we have Doug Avery with us as well, who is going to tell us a story. Wisely, I scheduled this to happen on the night of a Seahawks football game, so our audience might be scant, but I'm just keeping a commitment that we're going to do this every month until we can go live again, and then we'll go in person. And maybe when we go in person, we can start broadcasting them out on, we can keep doing that, because through all of this, I've kind of learned something about broadcasting stuff live. So that's a good thing. I don't see anybody leaving a comment in the comment section, but I'll live with that and just assume that we're good. And I know there's somebody besides the four of us watching this. Yeah, looks like we have 5 viewers. So there's a mystery viewer out there right now. But thank you, whoever you are, for joining this. And if you're watching this later, that's great. My name is Steve Gardner. A little bit about Story Night. We started this 6 years ago. We meet once a month. We started at the Minute Saloon, then we went over to the Cloverleaf Sports Bar and Grill within a few months. And once a month, we'd get on stage, and based on a story, based on a theme, we'd have people tell stories. And we had a nice crowd that would come out. It was a nice way to gather in the community. We'd learn stuff about each other. And it was a great opportunity to learn things that we might not have otherwise learned. I know that I've had to rethink some of my thoughts based on what I've heard on stage. It's not the reason we do it. It's just an opportunity to share and learn. And it's been a lot of fun. And I look forward to seeing you all in person again. And that is not out of the realm of possibility sometime next year. And hopefully it'll happen earlier than, I'm hoping that it happens earlier than we may have thought it would. But we'll just keep doing this. We'll keep this place. Now, this is not the normal date for a Story Night. We normally meet on the first Thursday of the month. I asked to move it back a couple of weeks because, as I've said before, I don't know if you're aware of this, but we had a kind of a big news event, and there was an election. If you're not reading the papers, if you're not going on the internet, well, if you're not going on the internet, you're not here. But if you're not paying attention to the news because you're a kid, there's been an election, and I work in elections. And it looked like, and in past elections that weren't as big as this one, I was just exhausted the weeks after, and doing Story Night was hard on those weeks. This year, I could have pulled it off. It would have been fine, because everybody voted so early that it really reduced the amount of work that we had to do after the election. Usually we do a lot, and I think this is an anomaly. I think people will go back to voting later, but pretty much everybody had their minds made up early, and they wanted their ballots in as soon as possible. Looks like we're going to have levies and we're going to have a levy election in February, and who knows in April, and we'll definitely have a primary again. And we expect people will go back to voting later in the process and having lots of work after the election, but it just wasn't that way this time. And as I was telling this group, I was stressed a lot before the election. I was stressed about what kind of crowds we might see at our vote centers late in the process. And I was also stressed that there might be some people less than happy at the election center, at the vote centers. And I didn't see anybody. Nobody was really, nobody where I was overly angry or aggressive or anything like that. And the crowds on Tuesday night, I was in Paulsville. We had a long line there at about 5 or 6 o'clock, and by 8 o'clock, everybody was inside, and we were able to close the doors, and the voters were gone within 15, 20 minutes, and we packed up and came home. And I was absolutely giddy, and it had nothing to do with what was going on nationally. And if you remember, on election night, we didn't really know what was happening nationally. So tonight, our theme is Thanksgiving. I'm not usually so on the nose about a theme. We're a week away from Thanksgiving. Next week we'll be meeting, and it'll be in less than ideal circumstances for most of us. But I know that there are a lot of things that a lot of reasons we have to be grateful. I'm going to tell a story about gratitude. I haven't talked with Jose and Priya. I don't think they have stories for us. Doug has a story for us. But anytime you want to chime in, if you want to comment about something that you're grateful for right now, then feel free to chime in the comment section. I think I can see the comments, but again, this is the first time we've done this on YouTube. So I don't know. I mentioned Jose and Priya. I didn't clear this with them ahead of time, but I think they're prepared to talk about library programs. So I don't know which one of you it is. I'm going to put the spotlight on you. Which one is it?
I'm happy to jump in first. Jose, okay. If you have anything pressing that I might have forgotten to add afterwards, feel free. Spotlight, cool. Hi, I'm Priya. I'm a librarian at the Downtown Bremerton Library. I'm joined by Jose, who is a librarian at our Sylvan Way branch. And I just wanted to share very briefly that we are still open for curbside service, even with the latest round of restrictions, limitations, mild lockdown, however you want to put it. We're still open for curbside. So if you want to check out any type of materials you would normally check out pre-pandemic, you can do that. You can put holds on items through your account, or feel free to give us a call if you need help with that. And then when it's ready to pick up, we'll get in touch and let you know. We also have curbside printing available through a simple web form. It's at krl.org/printing. And that way you can upload a document and then just stop by your closest branch to pick it up. And it is free. Woo. And then the latest thing that I wanted to shout out about is our new Book a Librarian service, where if you need some one-on-one time with a librarian, either if it's help getting your e-readers set up, if you want to know what the library does and why we matter, if you want to use our catalog, if you want help with research, if you want a librarian to give a personalized talk to your class, fill out that form and we will get in touch with you and we can sort of have some one-on-one time. So that's under our contact menu on our website, and that's krl.org. Jose, did I forget anything?
I think that you're right, Priya. I just want to share the screen really quick so that people can see how it works. Steve, can I share my screen from here?
Yes, let me, give me a second. I'll set that up for you here.
Well, hello everyone. My name is Jose Castro. I am the Adult Services Librarian for Sylvan Way here in Bremerton. Everybody's here in the world right now. I'm going to share my screen really quick so you can see what Priya was talking about on two important services that we are having right now. The first one is the curbside printing, and to access it, you can go to krl.org, and below the contact option, you can click over curbside printing. It's super easy. You just scroll down and you just say yes or no if you want to agree with the politics of the library, and then you upload your document, you choose the file, and you press the numbers copy that you want. If you want a single size, double size, black and white, color, portrait, landscape, and very important, select the branch where you want to pick it up, so other branches that receive it. As Priya said, it's super straightforward and it's available, and you can print up to 100 pages per day. Just make sure to give us a call before that so we can have it ready for you. And the other one that Priya mentioned was Book a Librarian. Yes. So if you want to get in touch with a librarian for any kind of like question or reference, or you have like any doubt, like doing some digging into this internet world and you need additional information, you can fill this form and we can contact you. A librarian will contact you and try to reach like an agreement. It could be like in a call, or it could be like in Zoom call, so you can like fill a little guide, and also you can have like some guidance on how to fulfill your request on reference. So that be all for my part. Thank you very much, Steve, and back to you.
All right, let me put there we go. We're back on gallery view, so you can see all of us. Thank you, Priya and Jose. And thanks to Kitsap Regional Library. I do want to say that for the first time, I requested a book and I went to the curbside pickup, and I drove up and I was a little bit late. Somebody saw the vehicle I was driving. I just tell you, it was a minivan. They saw the minivan. I had been asked to, describe what I'd be driving up in, and they came right out and handed me the book, and I was on my way. So it worked. It was fast. I mean, well, obviously, it should be faster to go through a drive-through when you make an appointment and that, but I've reserved books in the past and gone in. You walk in, you grab the book, you check it out. This was, they knew who I was and handed me the book, and I drove away. So it was pretty quick and convenient. And I don't know, is that going to go away once we're all able to gather again? Or is that just something, hey, we're just doing this for now? We don't know.
Well, it will depend. So I have heard the same questions for many people. Is this going to be a way? Maybe it's another service. We don't know yet. But the important thing is that the library is trying to, the library is like providing their services. We are open. We are in this together with you all.
Yep, I appreciate you. And I think the drive up will go away. That's just my perspective. It will stop because there's just not enough parking. There isn't, for it to have cars going through.
Which brand do you went?
What's that?
Which brand do you went?
Oh, I went to Port Orchard, and which was great because and this is what I was thinking also, is like if you go to Sylvan, it's quite a ways from the front door to the it's not terribly far, but it's a little bit farther than it is Port Orchard. I could almost reach my arm inside the Port Orchard Library from my car, but it's that's an exaggeration for those of you scoring at home. But it is a great service, and I appreciate being able to have hard copy books in my hand. I've also enjoyed the getting them digitally. I have liked that. I've done it from both Kitsap and Seattle Public Library as well. I've part of that, but to be able to have a hard copy, I'm still, I guess, old school as far as books go, and I can do fine with the digital ones, but I do prefer having the book in hand, which is I prefer it, except for when I move, then I wish that everything I had was digital, and so maybe we'll go that route at some point. But, I am giving thanks for were you just about to show us a book, Jose, or was that just in passing? You're muted.
I was just like showing a book.
Oh, an actual book. Yeah, yes. I'm not going to show the book. I'm not going to show the book I got because it's political, and somebody's going to make bad assumptions about me.
Okay. Okay.
It's a radical. No, it's not radical. But at any rate, so and I don't have it handy, and I don't want to go get it. That's the real reason. But I have hard copies of books here too. So you can see some behind me, but those are mine. Anyway, we are going to have a couple of stories. I want to give people an opportunity to talk about things they're grateful for. If you have something you're grateful for, please put it in the chat. Kim Weaver says, hi to everyone. Miss you all. Happy to see your faces. Well, we don't see your face, but it's great to hear from you, Kim. So thank you for joining us this evening. So I mentioned the election. I am grateful that the election went as smoothly as it did, and as logistically, and I'm going to be honest, I'm happy with I'm personally, I don't think I'm going to, if I offend somebody by saying that I'm happy with the result, then I don't know what to say that it is. But oh, and Doug, you asked the question, what's the title of the video? I did a search for Story Night Thanksgiving, and that's how I found this. So there's also a link to it on Facebook. If you go to my profile, there's one on Twitter. It's funny. That's valuable info for Doug, who's already watching, but is watching via Zoom. That message isn't going to help anybody else who's having trouble finding us tonight. And I hope this, again, I hope this will be the format from now on. We may find out that it is just too hard for people to find it here. And if that's the case, then I'll have to give up, but I hope this is the way we do it. Again, I am grateful that the election went well. Something else I'm grateful for is this bottle. I answered a trivia question at the county, and I won this major prize. It wasn't a leg lamp, but it's pretty good. It's a water bottle, and I drink water during the night, and when I wake up at night, in the middle of the night, sometimes I need some refreshment, and this is a good bottle to have next to the bed. So that was a good thing. I think what we can do, let me share a little story that I'm pretty sure I haven't told this story at Story Night before, and I've got a couple of things I'll talk about tonight. But when I was, I have told the story, I believe, about when I was in my early 30s and I moved to Oregon. I don't know if it's that memorable. I'm told it other places. I'm not sure actually that I've ever, I think I've told it at Story Night. It's about being stuck. And in fact, I'm going to go spotlight. I mean, does anybody else have anything they want to say before I tell my story and then turn it over? Okay. So I'm going to spotlight me. So in 1994, I was 32 years old, and I decided to move to Oregon from Utah. And it was based on the fact that I just had felt so stuck. Life was not going well. I was, it was fine. It was fine, but fine isn't great. I was not in a relationship with anybody. I just had a major breakup a couple years, a year or two before that year. And there were some things that motivated me to think to move away. And, being a Mormon guy, it's counterintuitive to think that moving away from Utah will improve your chances romantically. But it wasn't working as it was. And I was not doing well career-wise. I was not holding down jobs. I was not working in careers that were exciting to me, and that were paying well, that were creating a great living. And so for whatever reasons, I went up. I like to go to scenic overlooks to make decisions sometimes. And I went to the Utah State Capitol. It's high up on a hill overlooking Salt Lake City. And I was looking down in the city, and I'd been to Oregon within the last couple of years at that point, and I'd really enjoyed it. I was with somebody else who really had a great love for that city, and I learned a lot about the city at that time, and I thought, I want to move there. And when I was on the Capitol steps that day, I said, I'm going to move to Oregon. I'm going to make this happen. Well, the interesting thing to me that I didn't have any prospects. And the other thing I decided was I'm not moving until I have a job there waiting for me. and which is a tough decision for somebody who's 32 years old and has worked a lot, but hasn't really built up a lot of experience in anything that makes you really marketable. Years later, I would find a different situation where, because I did some work as a reporter, it opened up some doors to me that I hadn't had before then. And I was not a reporter at this time. And so I really don't think I had any idea how bold of a decision it was to decide that somebody's going to want to hire me in Oregon. So I went about the process, and the miracle itself, how that happened is a miracle of its own. And it's another story. And it's one I've told before, but not on the stage. It's story night. I got a million of them. I ended up moving up in August, and I had to sell. I had some Harlem Globetrotter trading cards from when I was a kid that I had to sell to have enough gas money to move up. Once I got there, the company was willing to give me some money to move, but most of that money went to the first month's rent of the place that I was going to be living in. It was a bedroom of somebody's house, and I wasn't allowed to have guests up in my room. So that meant, you don't want to really have guests over in the living room of somebody's house. So it basically meant, well, if I socialize, it's not going to be at my house. So there I was. So when I was home, I was kind of alone in that bedroom. I had this job that paid me $2,000 a month. And I had messed up my finances enough. And I don't know, I can't remember all the details, but for some reason, I wasn't able to get a bank account. And I had IRS debt. So I was a catch. And I went to Oregon, and I moved there. And about 10 days after I moved there, I took a drive out to the coast, because the coast was one of the main attractions of moving to Oregon. And so I made the drive out there. I had this BMW that had almost 200,000 miles on it. And it had been, it was an old, I love driving that car, but it was a BMW after all, but it was old. And it was, looking back, I was lucky that it got me as far as it did. And I got to the coast, and I found a place to park, which in hindsight is kind of surprising, because there was an event going on. And when I found an easy place to park, and I walked up, and at the end of Broadway Street in Seaside, there's the William. Anyway, the end of the expedition, end of the trail. This is embarrassing. Is it Williams and Clark? Clark and whatever. You guys will correct me. You can put it in the comments, because there's no pressure on you. You can put this in the comments, and I'll remember it. But anyway, there's the statue of those guys, the end of the trail. And there was an event going on the beach. There was a band playing, and there was a guy with a microphone announcing things. And there was what appeared to be a finish line. And I saw these people running across this finish line, and they would do it in groups. And it was really interesting to me, and it looked really fun, but I was there to kind of, grab some peace. And so I watched it for a little while, and then I went on beyond there. And I found a place to sit on the sand, kind of away from all of the hubbub behind me. And I just sat and looked at the waves. And there's something for me that's meditative and soothing and life affirming about watching the ocean come in and out. And here I am, 32 years old, no prospects of a relationship. I have a really low paying job that I'm really just kind of okay with. I have no friends out there other than the people I've met at work. And I take my foot and I write in the sand, I am rich. And I literally did this. And the reason was because in that moment, I wasn't focusing as much on what I didn't have. I didn't have a great job. I didn't have lots of money. I didn't have a great place to live. I didn't have relationships. I didn't have really any close friends there. I was really there on my own, and not impoverished, but I was in a fragile economic place. And yet I felt rich. And a lot of that is because of where I'd been, because I had come from a situation where I had a bigger safety net. I'd come from a place where I had a bigger safety net, but I was now where I wanted to be. And that made me feel rich. There's a saying that, comparison is kind of a bad state to be in. And in that moment, I was kind of comparing my situation with where I had been. And that could be, that can be dangerous, because a lot of times we compare ourselves to other people, and it can be dangerous. But in moments like that one, it's wonderful to acknowledge. There's a saying that if you're not happy with what you have, why would you want more? And I realized that I could be happy with what I had in that moment, even though I was not rich financially, I was not wealthy, no relationships, but I was rich because I was where I wanted to be. So that is one of my gratitude stories. I will say that there is a lot more to that story, because as years would go, oh, people are applauding. Thanks. There's I'm actually taking, that's one of the stories that I'm writing. I'm writing something that will delve into that story and other stories as well. But again, I think it's important to think about, if you're not happy with what you have, why would you want more? And so in this moment, we're all stuck inside. Life isn't what we necessarily would have planned for ourselves right now. But as we gather for Thanksgiving next week, I'm going to have a lot to be thankful for. So I hope that's true for all of you too. So there you go. And I got more to talk about. I got one more thing to tell everybody about, and it's going to be brief tonight, but that's great. I see. You're welcome, Kim. Welcome for the story. Thank you for commenting. Thank you for being here. With that, Kim is suggesting, Jose, that you find a nice crown for your birthday or make a paper one. Any plans for any crowns?
Well, the thing is that when we used to meet at the Cloverleaf, Kim wanted me to wear a crown that she had, and I never fulfilled that promise. But Kim, as soon as we get back to the Cloverleaf or whatever we are going to be, I will going to wear that crown, even a paper one.
Yeah, we're not waiting for your birthday. We're gonna hold you to that. So.
Yes, or maybe like a Snapchat filter or something I can use. So these days you don't need to wear a crown, really.
We have at our work, we have a it's an Instagram kind of frame that when couples come in to register to get married, and when people come in to register to vote, we've used it before, but we haven't messed with it this time. But when people get their marriage license, they can pose with a picture that they can post on Instagram, and it says, I don't think it says just married, but anyway, it just, we're getting married or something like that. Kitsap County Auditor's Office. So I think we're all going to want to wear crowns. Kim says that'll be an occasion we're celebrating when we are able to get back together in person. And we've discussed that a little bit here today. So Doug, you got a story for us? Oh, I got to unmute you.
There you are. I got a story. Probably more just like a diatribe on things to be thankful for, but sure.
Well, it's all yours. Take it away.
All right. So, I mean, we know that this year has been a hard year to find something to be grateful for. that way for a lot of people probably. And I was in a conversation recently with a new friend, and it's in that getting to know you kind of stage where we're talking about our hobbies and our likes and things that we're into. And I started thinking about I guess this is going to be very similar to what you just said, Steve. I actually talk about this a lot in my stories, but I started thinking about when I first moved out to Washington, and this was as of this September. It's 8 years, and I started thinking about my move out to Washington from Connecticut, and I was describing to this new friend about how how and why I moved, and I came to this realization that I came out here with pretty much only the clothes on my back. I had nothing else to my name. I didn't have a place to live. I didn't have a job. I didn't have any stuff. It was literally just my suitcase and me, and a couple of travel companions in Brissinger and Dean Koontz's Frankenstein. So I couldn't have asked for better travel companions, but that was about all I had. And that first year I was here, I moved right before Thanksgiving. I moved right before Christmas. I left my kids behind to move out here. And I remember that year struggling to find things to be grateful for, because I was in a new state where I only knew a handful of people. I didn't have any stuff with me. I had just the clothes on my back. I was facing my first holiday without my family, without my kids. And somebody had challenged me to a 30-day thankful Facebook challenge that year. And I went back just recently to look at what I had posted, and it was such a stretch. It was such a struggle to find things to be thankful for. Thankfully, I did find a job, though. So I had a job by Thanksgiving that year. I was very thankful for that. But I still was looking down the barrel of I was going to miss Thanksgiving. I was going to miss Christmas. I was going to miss my birthday, Valentine's Day, Easter, all of those holidays. I was going to miss them all with my family, and more importantly, my children. So it was a pretty hard year. And I remember I came to a decision that summer. They moved out the following summer, and I had come to a decision. I had said, you know what? I missed all these holidays. We missed all these holidays together. We're gonna throw them all on one day in one big holiday party, because we missed it all. I don't even remember what I called it, but I remember waking my kids up that morning, dressing them in Halloween costumes, giving them a basket to hunt for small Christmas presents. And it overall turned out to be a really wonderful day. And it reminded me of the good that I was doing and the reason why I had moved out to Washington in the first place. No, I had intended on making this an annual tradition for the family, and that never really took off. Life gets in the way and personal things happen. So fast forward to the following Thanksgiving, and we're in an argument over how early the Christmas tree should go up. And I'm not a fan of putting the Christmas tree up before Thanksgiving, but everybody else was. So we came to a compromise where we would put the tree up on the 1st of November. We would only put one ornament on the tree a night until we reached Thanksgiving, and then we would fully decorate it. And that has been our family tradition since then. So this year, in the middle of this pandemic and struggling to find things to be thankful for, we put up our tree and we started to slowly decorate it. And I started having this conversation with my new friend and talking about my hobbies and things. And I'm starting to show off these things in my apartment that I am proud of. And I've come to realize that 8 years ago, I came out here with just the clothes on my back. I had no stuff. But now I have my own apartment. I have my kids. We have our slowly decorating Christmas tree. I have a Christmas village that I will happily show off when it is completed, that I have been slowly building over the years. My kids, as indicated by the absolute tornado of a mess in their room, they have their toys and their books and their movies and their things that make them happy. And I have my wondrous, eclectic, nerdy, geeky living room full of things that I am passionate about that I have slowly acquired since moving out here. So I think the one thing I am thankful for the most this year is stuff. Because there may be a lot of stuff going on out there in the world, but everybody has their own stuff that they can be proud of. And that's my story.
Thank you. Thank you, Doug. I got to change the view here. Interesting. You brought up about, I don't know, Jose and Priya, if you want to weigh in on this, but I'm usually, I wouldn't say I'm militant about the fact that I kind of want to wait until after Thanksgiving to start thinking about Christmas. But I probably prefer it. My oldest brother is constantly on Facebook. What is the word? Proselytizing for holding off until after Thanksgiving before you start putting up Christmas decorations and that kind of thing. My brother's older than me. He's a traditionalist, I guess. And this year, I just don't give a crap. I want the Christmas stuff up, as soon as possible. And we drive around the neighborhood. And we have one of those Clark Griswold kind of neighborhoods. It's not that fancy. Maybe some of the houses are, but at any rate, it's a I don't know. This could be a Truman Show kind of a suburb, and people have their decorations up, and I'm just thrilled with it. And I don't get to get out as much anymore because I'm working from home again. But it is so, to me right now, this is just great. And thank you, Doug, for reminding us of all that we have to be grateful for, and for that's kind of a cool thing. That I think so. It started November 1st that you put the tree up.
Yeah, we got it up a little bit late this year because I still work, but yeah, we put it up in the beginning of November. We put on, and each kid puts on an ornament a night, and then we finish decorating it Thanksgiving. So, and I made it a point to tell them it's the only Christmas that goes up before Thanksgiving. Like, I have my village, and we have our stockings and all that other stuff, but I make it a point to tell them the tree is up, everything else can wait.
Well, Kim's making a great point on there that she's apparently a staunch post-Thanksgiving person, but she started listening to Christmas music a week ago, and she asked the question, what does time even mean anymore? So, yep, I get it.
I concur.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's great job, Doug. Thank you for sharing that. Jose and Priya, do you have anything you want to add before I get into my last little story?
Well,
I've put you on the spot. Okay. I have a map that has a spot on it, and I put you right there.
Okay. So I also want to share my story. I was encouraged listening by Doug's story as well. It's also about me coming to Washington the first time. I just want to follow the same line as Doug because I also found some joy when I'm coming here. I came here because I lost all of my things maybe this is like my PTSD and all that, but I just came here on 2017 after the hurricane in Puerto Rico, and I have lost all of my stuff. And I was like listening to Doug, and I was feeling the same way. Like it was like a great year for me. All the things that I love was not there. It was like a complete destruction in my house, but also in my mind as well. But after coming here, I started to work, and also my boyfriend came with me. Someone at my boyfriend works like asking, "Hey, do you guys need stuff for starting your new apartment?" And we were like, "Well, we're like just starting here. We were about to move because I moved here with my sister first, and on the third month we were on our own. And suddenly, after like 2 weeks after that person offered us, um, we had here like a band with all the pans for the kitchen, the bed, the TV, like all the furniture. Like I get all my apartment like remodel, and I'm grateful for the people here, also here in Kitsap. That's why I love this part of Washington, this part of the world where I am now, because I felt like I was well received here. I felt that people shared the love, and I haven't seen that person after that. After that person gave us all the things. She resigned on the work that my boyfriend was working. I don't know if she is like listening right now, but Tina, I am doing right now well. I miss you a lot. We're missing you as well. I hope that video finds you well as well. But thank you for that. That's my way of paying forward. That's why I'm very passionate about what I do here. Because certainly 3 years after everything happened, I'm having a new future. I have a new outcomes, and I have a new also in my life, and that is like thanks to the people who live here. And this is not my only maybe good experience here, but I just wanted to say it. And now that having the opportunity that we are leaving YouTube and more people can search this story, I just want to send that virtual hug to Tina, wherever she is. So thank you very much, Steve, for the opportunity.
Yes, thank you, and thanks, Tina, for showing up for somebody. It's amazing, it's always amazing to me how people will show up for folks, and one of the things, I try not to be obnoxious about this, but my team won the World Series this year. I don't know if you guys knew this. I've been waiting 32 years. And Doug, I'm sorry, but I am so happy Mookie Betts is a Dodger.
I am happy for you. So,
so that was a great thing, but it reminds me of again, going back to 2017, the Dodgers were in the World Series against the Houston Astros, and they lost in 7 games. There's been a story since that year about that series that we don't need to go into, but at the time, I remember how many people came up to me, and it still gets to me that people that would say, I don't care much about baseball, but I was really rooting for the Dodgers because I know how much you wanted them to win. And it was almost as good as the Dodgers if they would have won the series. But to have people reach out to me and express how much they were rooting for the Dodgers because they were rooting for me, that meant a ton. How people will show up in surprising ways. The reason I say it's almost as good is I would rather have them say, congratulations, I was really rooting for the Dodgers because of you. But condolences aside, it was really heartwarming to hear so many people come up and say that. The people that expressed, that cared enough. And it was pretty awesome to watch them win this year. I got to tell you, nobody's going to understand this. people, I watched that last pitch go in, and it was a strike. The batter didn't swing at it, and the series was over. The Dodgers had won, and it's just interesting. It's just amazing to have 32 years of doubts wiped away within like a couple of seconds. It was really pretty sweet. So I hope folks that aren't watching us are enjoying, if they're not watching us because they're watching a football game, I hope things are going well for them tonight. I have no idea, and I'm not really going to check afterwards, but I'm rooting for you people who who really have a vested interest in this. So, raise your hand if you, and all three of you, the rest that are here on screen, if you want to raise your hand and say any more, feel free to do that. I'm going to tell you about a friend of mine. And some of you know how this ends, but when I was 12 years old, I was kind of a new Mormon kid. So I kind of had a missionary zeal to me. And I was in a Sunday school class, and there was a new kid that came into class. He was friends with an older kid, and this older kid was a holy terror. He was funny. I thought he was hilarious, this older kid. And it turned out that this kid that was in our class, he was in our class because he couldn't go to the class with the older kids. And so I guess I should spotlight myself here, because everybody else is hiding out anyway. This kid was funny too, but he was kind of obnoxious, and he was kind of a tease. And one of my existing friends was getting really annoyed with him, and to the point where it looked like they were going to fight, because that's what 12, 13-year-old boys do. They get mad, they start throwing punches, whether they're in church or not. And I didn't want to ruin it for this kid, this first time coming to church. And yeah, I agreed that he was obnoxious, and I couldn't believe the lines he was crossing or whatever, but and how incessant he was, how relentless, I guess is the term, or relentlessly teasing people and causing disturbances. But I kind of stopped the fight, because I didn't want this kid to feel bad, coming to church one time and never going to come again. So we kind of formed a little bit of a friendship out of that. His name was Byron. And we weren't best friends at that age, but he did end up continuing to come to our church even after his friend had moved away. He lived in the area where he would go with us, and we offered him rides a lot because he was the only one in his family going. And then when he was 15, his family moved away to Palm Springs. We were in West Covina. They moved about 90, 100 miles away east to Palm Springs, where his parents had a house that they had planned to retire in, and the time had come, and he was going to go to high school in Palm Springs. And we saw him a lot more than you would expect for somebody who had moved that far away. And part of that is because his parents really didn't stop him from doing whatever he wanted to do. And so he would come out to West Covina once in a while and visit, and we stayed in touch. We weren't the best of friends, but we both left for our Mormon missions at the same time. And he went into what we call the missionary training center. It's where you spend, if you're not learning a language, you're there for a few weeks. And this is the way it was back then. And if you are learning a language, you're there for 8, 9 weeks. And he got there a week before I did. He was going to Italy. I was going to Chile. And you're really not supposed to, you're assigned a partner, a companion, and you're really not supposed to, veer from your companion. But every night Byron would show up in our little area. He was in a completely different building, but he would just show up and he'd visit. And he was as obnoxious then as he had been when he was 12, 13 years old, or he at least was really capable of crossing lines. And I know one time he described one of the women in our group in a way that I wasn't appreciative of it, but we had somebody else in the group who was really not appreciative. I kind of knew Byron, so it wasn't as shocking to me as it was to somebody who didn't. And so, I mean, this is the way it was. But we, it's through leaving on our missions at the same time that we became really close friends. We wrote to each other from Italy. We both were amazing or tremendously homesick when we got to our countries, and excited about coming home so that we could go to McDonald's. Yeah, I know. We were in Southern California, and somehow we hadn't had the In-N-Out revelation. We wanted Big Macs because we couldn't get them where we were. And we both got home right around the same time. Both had girlfriends right around the same time, women we thought we were going to marry. Both got dumped right around the same time, and both ended up at BYU at the same time, where we had a Big Mac eating contest with one of the women we had known. And we weren't roommates then because I didn't want to live in the dorms. He was wanting to live in the dorms. I wanted nothing to do with that. That's a whole nother story. But so I was there a couple of years, and then finally the third year we ended up being roommates. And I had become friends with somebody else who was my roommate, because one time when I was living somewhere, Byron came back from Italy. He had gone there for study abroad, and he had stopped by Utah, and he had asked if he could, stay at my place. And there was nobody else at the apartment at that time. I think everybody was on break, and he slept in the room next to me, and he was snoring, and it was so loud in my room, in the next room, that I knew I don't ever want to room with this guy. I don't want to ever be his roommate. And so I had another guy that was going to be my roommate, but Byron lived in the same apartment. And my friend knew him and was not shocked by him. 6 guys in one apartment. My roommate was okay with him. There were 2 friends in the next room over, and one of them was found him funny. The other one was mildly annoyed, but could put up with him. He had the biggest problem with his roommate, and they just could not get along. Byron got an opportunity to go somewhere else for the next semester, so that guy only had to deal with Byron for 1 semester. I graduated, went away, and came back, and ended up living in the same apartment with Byron while he was still going to school. And that's the point where we became actual roommates, and that was that's a detail that's neither here or there. But we went on a lot of double dates, and he was just constantly causing trouble. He was and not malicious, not getting in actual trouble, not breaking the law or anything like that. But he was stirring things up all the time. And there were times when we'd be in the same classroom, and it was an open conversation, and it lent itself to having fun. And I was, I love the stage now, but I was kind of shy back then. But I, could come up with some funny things, and I would say something funny to him quietly, and then he'd yell it out loud, and it would just crack up the room. And I was like, gosh, I wish I was brave enough to generate that kind of laughter. We ended up living. We were roommates for quite a while. We actually got an apartment together, or I got an apartment. I moved in with my brother, but then my brother moved away, and then Byron came up in Salt Lake City, and we were living together there for quite a while. And this was at a time when, we both had jobs. And I had lost my job, one job, but then I bounced back and gotten another job. Byron, at one point, he had a job. He had a good job. He had a good relationship with the people who had hired him, and then they left. And he had new bosses, and they didn't like Byron. As I said, he was kind of difficult. And if you didn't know him, if you didn't appreciate his kind of humor. And he eventually got fired, and it was a tough time for him. And there was this one time I was out, and I went to Wendy's, and I thought I should get something for Byron. It was just a casual thought. Things were going well for me. I knew they weren't for him, and so I walked in, and I handed him this Wendy's combo. I know. So we went from McDonald's to Wendy's. We'd really stepped up, and I have never seen more gratitude for a gift than I did in that moment. He had a hard time accepting things from people. I don't know where that comes from, but he was so grateful, and he never stopped talking about that. He would always, remind me of it, that you remember when you did this, and it wasn't that, to me, it wasn't that, it didn't seem to be that big a deal, but it was to him. And so eventually we roomed together, and it did come time where he started, where I was on tough times. I had a job, particularly it was, he had bounced back. He had gotten work that was working for him. I had a job with a startup company. It was a long string of jobs that were really less than ideal. And this was a startup company. They were still raising capital and that kind of thing. And I was, working there on the promise that, once things got going, that I'd be salaried and things, I'd be on my way. I'd be on my way with some career. But this went on for about a year, and I got paid by that company about $6,000 over the year. And there were all kinds of promises when paychecks would be there. And there were these constant situations where Byron would walk up to me and hand me a $20 bill. I wasn't asking for it. There probably were times that I did ask him for money, but that I wasn't very often. Most often that he was generous, he just volunteered it. And he basically, I don't want to say he supported me that year, but it pretty much was. And it all went back to that Wendy's moment where I walked in with lunch for him, and he just never forgot it. And he kept showing up for me that year. I moved to Oregon, as you may know, as you may have heard earlier today. I moved back a year later. That's its own story. And we were roommates again. And then I got married, and we went our separate ways. And a lot of times over the years, we've gone months without talking to each other. Even when we were still both in Utah, there were long stretches, and Byron had some tough times during, and it wasn't because I was gone. It was just, life in general was throwing him curveballs that were tough to deal with. And but he remained funny, and we, once in a while we would meet up, and we'd go to La Dolce Vita, an Italian restaurant in Provo. And then eventually I moved up here to Washington. And we would contact each other by phone. And at one point my mother died, and I was introducing Byron to somebody else there, and I described him as my best friend, because Byron had been my best friend for years before that. And then when my dad died, Byron was there, and he did this. He was one of the pallbearers, and he dedicated the grave for us for my dad, and my parents loved him. He was like, when he was in the house, it was like he was one of the family, because we'd known him forever and ever. There was a lot of history about those years we're growing up, where my parents would get mad at him too. But he was lovable, and he would just show up for people in this. When we got back from our missions, he came to our house and cooked this Italian dinner, and he's the only one that's ever cooked that a particular dish. And it was, one of his favorites from over there. And I know of people like there's this family, this guy that was his boss in Salt Lake City. His family owned property up in Idaho. And when the fair was going on, they would park cars on their property, and he would just go up there and show up and help them park cars. He wasn't getting paid for it. He just did it. He would just show up for people like this. He was also, this doesn't minimize the fact that he was challenging. He was tough to deal with sometimes. His opinions, he and I grew to be completely opposite on the political spectrum. I don't want to say as far removed as you can be, but I come from a place where I've read a book called The Righteous Mind, and it discusses how there's morality behind all political beliefs, that there's different priorities and things like that. But he was as tough to. He wasn't somebody that was easy to reason with, and so and I'm not saying I am, but it at least goes both ways. At any rate, but we stayed friends. We had a mutual admiration for the Lakers and the Dodgers. We went to a Dodger game once and managed to get, I guess, what would be the best seats in the house for $40. And that's a whole nother story. But this guy was he had just been there for me for years and years. And, though our paths, separated, we would talk to each other on the phone, and that was nice. And when I would go to Utah, we'd see each other. We'd go to dinner, and it was like we'd never not seen each other. You probably all have friends that are like this, where you see them, you haven't seen them in a while, you haven't talked to them in a while, but when you reach out with them, it's like you never left. And I saw him 4 years ago. We went to La Dolce Vita. We talked for quite a while about politics. That was enlightening. And then, I came home, and we've talked ever since. And maybe a year or two ago, we had a really bad argument on the phone. And I thought our friendship was over. And it wasn't about politics. Indirectly related to it, but it wasn't about it. You could predict, I guess, what sides we were on based on what the argument was about. And it was a misinterpreted message. I said something that I didn't mean the way he thought he did, but then later I looked at it. It was albeit by text, and I could see why he felt the way he did, why he thought I was saying what I was saying, and I wasn't. So I didn't feel a need to necessarily. I don't know. It's one of those. I'm sorry. It's not. I'm sorry if you got hurt. I can see why you got hurt. That's the way it was. So we got over it, and we've been talking ever since. And it was the plan last summer that I was going to go down to Utah, and we were going to have another time to go to La Dolce Vita, but of course the pandemic hit, and it kind of curtailed our travel plans. And on Labor Day, Byron called me, and he told me he had pancreatic cancer. He had had cancer before somewhere else, and he'd been cured over 10 years, and he was determined to beat it. And I heard pancreatic cancer, and I determined that I got to go see him. But he was resolute in the idea that he was going to beat this. And I did my reading on pancreatic cancer, and I was afraid he wouldn't. And so I started scheming or figuring out how I can go to Utah without alarming him, and thinking that, I'm there to, I'm so scared because I think he's going to die. I don't want him to know that that's pretty much what I was thinking. And unfortunately, he lost a lot of strength, and he had to go into a rehab center, and there was no visiting him in the rehab center. So I couldn't go. And he went straight from the rehab center to the hospital. And sometime in mid-October, Byron died. He had some people visiting him. And I was able to I was able to talk to him on the phone once, and somebody else passed along a message. And I've been sad. The night he died, the Dodgers put a whooping on the Braves, and we all were, laughing about, oh, Byron's out there. He's the angel in the outfield today. But I've just got to say that it's easy to say, I am sad that Byron is gone. He was my best friend. We were a lot of ways we were not alike, and yet I always know I could count on him. And I've learned since he died how many people considered him family. He was adopted, and he and his brothers, most of his brothers, like 3 or 4 of his brothers were adopted, and that was always part of his story. But so many people considered him family because of the way he showed up in people's lives. And so one more thing I'm grateful for is for the influence that Byron has had in my life in that way, and the ways that I've wanted to become better because of the things I've seen him do. I'm grateful for his laughter. He also is partly responsible for the fact that I'm a ham, that I've learned to enjoy the attention of being on stage and trying to make people laugh. And sometimes it is trying because I'm not good at it. But it is there's it's been a gift to have been his friend all these years, to have had that man as my best friend. He and so this hopefully this summer we're gonna go down and we'll have a proper send off for this life that we live. And as we get on Thanksgiving, I am grateful for his life. I wish, I find myself wishing that I could have as difficult as it might be, that I could have a conversation with Byron about what's going on right now nationally in politics, because I know that no matter what, this is the one guy I could probably have a conversation with, one who is diametrically opposed to who would be as disagreeable about what I believe as anybody, but we would emerge as friends. I could always count on that. And so I hope there's a life after this one. I know for all the good that Byron has done, for all the people he's pissed off, he's also warmed the hearts of a lot of people. And I know that assuming there is an afterlife, he's being richly rewarded. So at this Thanksgiving, I'll be giving special thanks for the Dodgers and for my long time friendship with Byron. So I've dominated this. I've dominated this evening. I guess I'm so glad Doug was here to kind of make this not all about me tonight. So thank you. Thanks to the rest of you for joining tonight. And if you're a praying person or whatever, thoughts to Byron and his family, and know that no matter how difficult your relationships can be, there's going to be something. There's probably something that you can find in common. So that's all I got.
Thank you for sharing that, Steve.
Thank
It's a beautiful story.
Yeah, I got to work on that when we get to so fun when we get together in the summer, because we're all going to have a chance to talk about a good friend. So, anybody else have anything to add before we cut out tonight?
Well, I just want to say, Steve, I'll try to keep it short, not to inadvertently tell a second story, but
go ahead. No,
kind of like how you telling the story just now. A couple years ago, I lost my grandmother a couple of years ago, and I was very, very close to my grandmother. And the weird thing is, one of my biggest goals since I've moved out to Washington, is to go down to Disneyland. I've never been, not even as a kid. So I want to get my kids down there, and it's become this thing where it's like every year it's like, okay, this is the year I'm gonna get there. This is the year I'm gonna get there. But when I first moved out here, my summer vacations were spent going back home to see family, and that's what my summers became about. And then a few years ago, it was like, okay, you know what? I'm gonna skip going back home to Connecticut. I'm gonna go to Disney, and then something would come up, and I'd never make it. Well, a couple of years ago, I was super adamant about it. I had no plans to go back to Connecticut at all. It was like the first summer since I've been out here that was like, that's what it was. There are no more plans. Like, this is my summer. I can make it down there. And my mom called me one day, and she said, we're having a family reunion in July. I know you are tired of coming back to Connecticut, but your grandmother's sick, and we'd all really like it if you came back again this summer. And so I did, and I might add, very reluctantly. I was actually kind of like really angry about it for a little bit, and a little bitter about it. But when I got back to Connecticut, my grandmother had been really sick, and it turned out to be one of the best weeks that I had back there, because a lot had been done for my grandmother. We had taken her to her favorite beach. The bartenders there were super nice to her. They gave us a spot near the water, made her favorite drink for her. They were really hospitable. My grandmother had such a good time. And sure enough, a couple of weeks after I got back to Washington, my grandmother had passed away. So even though I was angry that I once again missed out on Disney, I was happy that I went because I got to see my grandmother one last time before she went. So, and I'm glad I did because I know I would have regretted it. I'm glad I got the chance to say goodbye to her. I don't know if I would have actually had it any other way. I still have not been to Disney. It was supposed to be this year, but we all know what happened. So, but yeah, I just wanted to share that because I mean your story about how, you know, because you never know, you never know what's going to happen. And even a few about I don't know 10 years ago now, I lost a good friend in the same manner. We had just reconnected after about 7 years, and a few weeks later, he died in a motorcycle accident. So it's the time we get to spend with people that is something to be really grateful for, because you never know what kind of effect they're going to have on you.
Yeah, I was somebody who lives in the community posted something on Facebook that, you know, I just shared recently, and I think it's perfect for this moment. You know, I had the opportunity to say goodbye to both of my parents before they died, and I feel so grateful for that. And I wanted that experience with Byron, but people this year, so many people have missed out on that opportunity because it's just not safe. And so I remembered that. I recognized that. And I also recognized that even before the pandemic, a lot of times people leave our lives suddenly and we don't have the opportunity to say goodbye. And so I'm grateful for every moment that we have. Kim had, so I want to read something, and I think we'll close with this, unless anybody else has anything to add. And I hope it's not morbid, but it does have to do with death, and it's beautiful. And I think it's from the Reformed Jewish liturgy, and I don't know the let's see, it's a you know, I don't want to butcher any of the language. So, but it's if you go to my profile, you can see this there on Facebook, and I just think it's beautifully written. And like I said, I'll close with this. Kim had asked when the next story night is. Jose answered it in the comments. Thank you, Jose, for taking that. It's December 10th. The theme that night is 2020 Vision, and then that's the second Thursday of the month, because if we did it the first one, that would just be in 2 weeks, and I ain't got time for that. But anyway, and then we'll be back. I believe we're going to be back the first week in January, and that one is Now What? Or I think the theme is something like Now What Do We Do? And we'll get you more themes as we go along. But anybody else have anything to add before I read this?
Just a fun fact for you, Steve, because I remember you mentioned it in your story. It's the end of the Lewis and Clark Trail.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I don't know why I was thinking Williams. William Meriwether Clark, and somehow I think that's what his name is anyway. So, if I would have thought of the Horizon Airlines ads that they would be talking about the Clark and Lewis expedition, I might have fared better. But anyway, so I just want to when we close, I'm going to read this, and then I will stop the broadcast. Thank you all. I think we're good. I hope that this is the way we do this from now on, is on YouTube. And but I guess there may be some feedback afterwards that could change my mind. But I think that I think this has worked really well. It's pretty easy to do. It's as easy as Facebook. So, and I think it reaches more people. So this was a meditations before, and I'm sorry if I'm saying this wrong, Kaddish. Kaddish. Yeah, I wondered if that was it. I got to put on my glasses. When I die, give what's left of me away to children and old men that wait to die. And if you need to cry, cry for your brother walking the street beside you. And when you need me, put your arms around anyone and give them what you need to give me. I want to leave you something better than words or sounds. Look for me in the people I've known or loved. And if you cannot give me away, at least let me live in your eyes and not in your mind. You can love me best by letting hands touch hands and by letting go of children that need to be free. Love doesn't die, people do. So when all that's left of me is love, give me away. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll see you in December.